Hey everybody, it's Knox from Horizon 3. Today I'm really excited to talk to you about 3 new tripwires that we're adding to our arsenal. And we're going to call these AD tripwires, Active Directory tripwires. And these tripwires are a little different than the other tripwires we've had in the past. They are going to help you to be able to have proactive defense of your Active Directory environment. And let's be honest, Active Directory can be pretty dirty and over time can get out of hand. So anything you can do to help find the bad guys, especially proactively, is great. So let me explain to you how these tripwires work. But first, I'm going to tell you a little story. So I started in IT as a MSP guy. I worked for a managed service provider, and I remember the old guys in the company when I was learning Active Directory telling me, "Hey man, you know, if you got to change the password on that service account, or you got that user that frequently needs to have their password reset, there's this field in Active Directory when you're creating users called the user attribute fields." See this right here, password and AD attribute. You can see where I'm going with this. And they said, "Don't worry, nobody can see that. The only people that can see it are us." Well, here we are in 2025, and it is actually really easy to pull that metadata out of the AD attributes of a user. And it's also a known TTP of Volt Typhoon, a state-sponsored Chinese threat actor. So let me show you real quick how this works. So let's go into domain compromise, and we'll go to impact type, and I'm going to go down to this one. And we're going to go down to the attack map because that's what's important. And I want you to see here how easy it is for NodeZero in an environment that has these passwords in user attributes. Look at this. NodeZero starts over here and just grabs the data. Just grabs it straight out of Active Directory. There wasn't any amazing, crazy thing that NodeZero had to do. It just was able to get it. And once it grabs all of that information out, it just logs into a machine and then exploits the machine. And we're done. We have domain admin. So I hope you can see that this one is a pretty scary one. Now, why do I tell you about this one? Well, because this is one of the new tripwires that we're adding into Horizon 3. And so the way this works is that we will provide a script that your users will run in their environment, and we'll create real user accounts. These are actual AD accounts that blend perfectly with your environment. For the exposed credential tripwire specifically, we'll put a fake password in the description field. It looks real to the attacker scanning for credentials, but it's actually a decoy. These accounts are real but designed to be uncrackable and should never be used for any business operations. There's a lightweight agent that actually runs on the NodeZero host that's able to check, and once it's all set up correctly, if the bad actor tries to run this type of enumeration and grabs that fake password and tries to use it, we'll detect them immediately. And so this is really great because I know as a guy who loves digging into ethical hacking and doing this kind of thing, one of the first steps I would do if I were in that environment is I would run the different Active Directory tools that are out there. And I know that those tools would be checking the attribute fields and looking for passwords in those description fields. And our other 2 tripwires that we have are related. So we have a Kerberoasting tripwire, and we have an AS-REP roasting tripwire. These things, you would think, Microsoft has fixed these things, but this is recently, this article was from September 11th, and Microsoft is under fire from a US senator. We had an incident recently where one click brought down a hospital, and guess what it was? It was Kerberoasting. And Kerberoasting is another one of these new AD tripwires we have. And with Kerberoasting, we're setting up a service account that looks legitimate. And when the attackers try to request a service ticket for this account to crack offline, we'll catch them in the act. The account is real, but designed to be uncrackable. And since it should never be touched for any business operations, we'll know that it's malicious activity. These legacy protocols are still a thing out there, and I'm so glad that our team has put together the ability now to set these up. Now, what's also great about them is that they'll be monitored continuously, 24/7, from that lightweight agent on the NodeZero host. And if the bad guys attempt to request tickets for these accounts or interact with them in any way, it doesn't matter where they are on the Active Directory network, it'll get logged and you'll get an alert. And that's why these are so great, because now NodeZero is helping you with proactive defense in your Active Directory environment. All right, so here's an example of what an alert coming in would look like. Now, this one is an AS-REP roast. This is the third type of tripwire that we're talking about. And so with AS-REP roasting, you can see here is the source IP on the network. That's huge, right? So now you know where the request came from, and then this is the reporting domain controller that reported what happened. You have the Windows event that was actually triggered right here. We have the trip actions that are outlined here, what caused the tripwire, and then you have more details down here in the description about what it actually is. But what's really important here is that the alert doesn't just show you the log event. It explains what the attacker attempted, why it matters, and what they're likely trying to do next. This helps defenders understand the attacker's mindset and their probable next steps. And it's interesting because you know we've talked about offensive security, and we don't talk a lot about incident response. But when you get this alert, this is when the incident's response is going to start. Because if you get this alert, that means that somebody in your environment is trying to use these known TTPs, these tactics, techniques, and procedures. And we're able to see it, and you're able to be alerted immediately. And that allows you to take action before the ransomware and before data is exfiltrated. And that's great. Now, if you're already a NodeZero customer and you're at the pro level of the package, which is the one that has tripwires, you've already got this. Active Directory tripwires will just automatically be there. And if you're not at the pro level, what are you waiting for? When you move to the pro level, you'll get rapid response and you get tripwires. And if you've got an Active Directory environment, these Active Directory tripwires feel like something you're really going to want, because you know it's dangerous and it's hard to tell sometimes if the bad guys are in your environment. And this gives you a proactive way to see them snooping around. Well, I'm so excited for this feature. Really hope you enjoyed learning about our new Active Directory tripwires. Thanks for watching.